Well, there are big questions about whether your vote really counts in Colorado after the Secretary of State who oversees elections there, Jenna Griswold, came right out in the past week and said partial passwords of voting systems were posted in a spreadsheet that anyone could download from her website, passwords for voting systems. ABC7 Denver covered it and interviewed an expert who said if hackers ever got the full passwords and physical access to the voting system, quote, they could take full control. That's a quote from ABC7 Denver. Is this voting system going to sue ABC7? They can only sue people for so long. Maybe if these voting systems paid more attention to actually securing their machines, put their money into that rather than lawfare, they could actually get somewhere and stop getting negative news stories about themselves. Anyway, Jenna Griswold, in charge of Colorado elections, she keeps saying that her state is the nation's gold standard on election security. Well, now she's getting called out herself, getting a lot of pressure from the Colorado Republican Party on this. They are investigating, and here to join me is the chair of the Colorado Republican Party, Dave Williams. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You put out a press release saying the Colorado Republican Party will seek legal relief in the courts as long as the secretary refuses to provide sufficient reassurance as outlined in our previous letter to her. So she's not reassuring you guys on the security of these machines?
No, not at all. She's not answering any meaningful questions. She's actually being quite evasive. In fact, she's engaged in a cover-up. And we're going to seek any and all legal means to hold her accountable. I want to impress upon your viewers here that this is the same Secretary of State that sought to disqualify Donald Trump from the Colorado ballot. This is not someone that we actually trust with our election systems because she's shown herself to be the true threat to democracy, if you will. We don't trust what she's done. We were the ones that broke this news. We sent a letter to her. And she knew about it for at least 5 days and didn't disclose it to the public, didn't disclose it to county clerks who actually oversee the elections themselves and the counting of those ballots. There are a lot of problems. And I want to point out one more thing. These machines are accessible remotely. Now, the clerks and all the other election officials try to ensure that they are turned off, that functionality is turned off. But make no mistake, if a hacker got connected to these devices, not only directly but potentially remotely, then we're in big trouble.
Okay, so let's rewind to, you said you broke the story. How did you find out about what happened?
Sure, we had a whistleblower of sorts come to us and say and told us exactly what happened, that these passwords had been posted online for several months. He became aware of it a little bit last week or so, some time frame within the past week, and he was able to just find the password. I mean, it was posted in such a way where if you just unhid certain tabs on an Excel spreadsheet, they popped up. And he discovered that. He informed us about it. We sought legal advice before we came out with it, but once we got all of our ducks in a row, we went to the secretary and we said, "Hey, this is a problem." That forced.
And this is on the Secretary of State's website itself.
It was on the Secretary of State's website, and you could download it. Anyone could have downloaded it, and it was posted for several months. And we finally disclosed it to the secretary, and we said, "Hey, this is what we discovered. Please tell us what's going on. Can you reassure us that this is not a problem? Please tell us that this isn't what we think it is." And instead of getting a direct response, they went into spin mode and tried to tell the public that this is no big deal. That goes against their own reasoning. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with Tina Peters, but Tina Peters is an infamous politician here who tried to shed light on some of the vulnerabilities that we have in Colorado. And the secretary herself sought prosecution against Tina Peters for essentially the same thing that now the secretary is guilty of doing. And so what we're saying is there's a double standard here now. You effectively put Tina Peters in prison for 9 years. It would make sense to us that now you need to be prosecuted and potentially go to prison as well.
I was going to say, I think Tina Peters just got sentenced to prison for an issue with passwords being exposed. Talk about Talk about hypocrisy. Here's the local news covering it.
With Secretary Jenna Griswold now facing calls to resign about what's being done to correct that error.
He also talked to an election cybersecurity expert who says the leak should be a wake-up call for state officials.
Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold frequently describes Colorado's elections as the nation's gold standard, in part due to security measures she says her office put in place. But now it's Griswold who's accused of being reckless. Griswold confirmed partial passwords for voting systems were posted in a spreadsheet that anyone could download from the Secretary of State's website.
This is cybersecurity 101. Nobody should write down clear text passwords in a file, for everyone to read.
Indrajit Ray is a computer science professor at Colorado State University and has studied election security for decades.
It's not the end of the world, but it is a security breach, and it should be investigated how this happens.
He says if hackers ever got access to our voting systems, they could take full control.
You can prevent people from voting. You can change the ballot. You can change whatever vote was cast. You can change, what vote was being tabulated. Anything you want to do.
Griswold says since only partial passwords were exposed, it did not pose an immediate security threat to Colorado's elections.
This does not pose an immediate security threat. I think it is a very unfortunate situation that we do take very seriously. And a personnel investigation will be conducted by an outside party to look further into the matter after the election.
I just want to read Jenna Griswold's statement a little bit too, because she's she's admitting to this apparently since you guys shed light on this. She's got a statement out on her website saying Colorado Department of State is aware of a spreadsheet located in the department's website improperly included in a hidden tab, including partial password to certain component of the Colorado voting systems. This does not pose an immediate security threat to Colorado's elections, nor will it impact how ballots are counted. A statement from Jenna Griswold herself. So she's saying just what you said. So there are a lot of components to voting systems. Is this where people check? Are these the machines where people check in? Are these the machines where they actually mark down who they want to vote for?
So these are the machines that you put the ballots through and they tabulate, and then they're going to they're going to get accumulation of the results, and then it'll be sent up for the posting of those results. The problem with what she's trying to do two things. She's trying to downplay the significance of this breach, and she's trying to at the same time reassure folks that that there's nothing to see here. It's very much the attitude of don't look behind the curtain here. Nothing to see here. The problem with that is that it contradicts her previous statements against people like Tina Peters. When Tina Peters, when she was accused and prosecuted for leaking this type of password, their office, the secretary, said it was a grave security threat. And so far as that they needed to decertify those machines within that one county in Mesa County for Tina. This was done over 63 counties across the state. And the question is, why is it different now? Why is it a grave security threat with Tina, but why is it not a big deal when it's your office that violated these rules and these laws? The other thing to keep in mind is that the passwords themselves, they're actually the very base function of the machine, and so they're one step underneath on the foundational level below the operating system. So if any hacker was able to have remote access or direct access, they could totally change the tabulation of those results and manipulate whatever outcome that they so desired. And the fact that these passwords have been out on the open market for several months, we have no idea if folks who had direct access or remote access to these machines also obtained these passwords and have done something. Again, we've had voting in Colorado. We've had voting going on for about 2 weeks now. We're just now figuring this out. And when the clerks were not made aware of this, there's no way they could have had enough time to safeguard against any potential problems. And then one last point, the secretary didn't start changing the passwords until yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay, because you wrote this letter to her and sent out a press release saying that you guys are demanding proof from her office that Passwords have been changed so that you can't just access these machines. But also, she's saying they're just partial passwords.
No, she's at best mistaken, at worst she's lying, which still underscores the fact that she probably needs to resign because she doesn't understand her system or she's being malicious. Those are not they're not partial, right? They are the skeleton key passwords, if you will, that if any nefarious actor got access to the machine itself, they can then manipulate the entire thing. It's a step below the operating system. It's the base foundational level. It's like a skeleton key that gives you, access to the entire kingdom, if you will. She's not being honest, and the proof is in the pudding. Again, she prosecuted Tina Peters and sought for her to go to prison in part for this particular reason. So again, she can't have it both ways. It's either a grave security risk or it's not. But I think all evidence points to the fact that if someone actually used the passwords and got connected to that machine, then yeah, they can do whatever they want and make your vote not count.
Wow. I and my staff, we have emailed her asking for an interview. I have emailed Jenna Griswold over the years asking for interviews. I want to know what the heck is going on in Colorado. There's been concerns, and you guys haven't changed the voting brand, the software, the machines there, have you, since 2020?
No, these systems haven't been. They've been in place as long as I been involved in these election cycles. So it's nothing's changed as far as we know.
So the same machines that had strange anomalies in 2020 that people got raked through the coals for exposing, rather than her working on fixing them, she gaslights everybody, tries to arrest people, and then the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency under Joe Biden comes out with an advisory in 2022 letting people know that these machines, which are used in 16 states, they have huge vulnerabilities. They give 2 years plus heads up, letting people know if you want to make sure that your vote counts, maybe you guys should fix these machines, maybe get a different machine brand, maybe don't use these kinds of computerized machines. But all these states seem to have stuck with what they had and just put their blinders on against the federal agency that's saying this is the case. I'm confused by this. In your statement, you also called on the Colorado legislature, especially Republican lawmakers, to convene an emergency audit committee hearing to uncover what the secretary has been hiding from the public. She admitted to the press that she refused to disclose this password leak until your state party exposed it. You said it's a cover-up. Yeah. So are legislators getting on board with that?
Some are. I think a lot of people are in shock and they're trying to figure out how best to approach this, especially with an election in less than a week. We just put out another news release that there's a member of that audit committee that has now demanding an emergency hearing be convened immediately so that we can figure out what the secretary knew and when she knew it. But there's no question this is a cover-up. I mean, she admitted to the press that she would not have disclosed any of this publicly or to the clerks had it not been for our efforts in breaking this news. We want some answers here. Our votes and our elections are sacred, and the fact that she has a history of screwing up or being intentional about being antagonistic to our values just demonstrates more of a reason why we need to get to the bottom of this. Again, this is the same person that tried to kick Donald Trump off the ballot and remove your ability to choose the candidate you wanted. This is the same person that sent registration cards to illegal aliens saying, please register to vote. This person should not be in office. And the fact that now she's allowed for passwords, skeleton key passwords that could manipulate outcomes is just another indicator of why we need to hold her accountable and get the answers before people have their vote on November 5th.
Wow. Yeah, it's not like she's nonpartisan. It's that's as partisan as it gets when you try to kick the Republican off of the ballot.
Right.
It's pretty partisan, and she's in charge of elections. So no wonder people on the Republican side have doubts as to whether she's really going to have a free and fair election. In your letter to her, you said, if, however, you fail to provide necessary assurance that our elections are secure, we're prepared to encourage county officials throughout the state to fulfill their duty to decertify any election machines with a password on the release list and to compel you through this law, CRS 1-1-113, to secure the election as required by law. So I mean, I think a lot of people on the left would say you're trying to do election interference by encouraging counties to decertify.
I mean, this is her own standard. Again, when she was prosecuting Tina Peters, she wanted those machines to be decertified and then corrected, however, whatever method that she had in mind. But that was her own standard. So it would stand to reason that if there was a password leak that had been ongoing for several months, going all the way back to potentially June, then we would likely need to consider decertification of these machines. Now, is that practical? Maybe not, but it's a question that we have to now ask. Like, this is your standard, Madam Secretary. So how do we fix this going forward? I think at a minimum, if we're not going to decertify the machines, then we need to at least have the ability to engage in a forensic audit of the entire election system post November 5th. If we can't do that, then I don't see how anyone can trust the outcome. I mean, this is a serious security breach, and I think it's ironic, it's sad, however you want to describe it, that the secretary would engage in this type of hypocrisy. We shouldn't allow for it, and we need to do something about it.
There were calls for her to resign. I think it was your office who asked for her to resign in the past day. She said absolutely not.
Right.
She's elected, isn't she? Some secretaries of state are appointed.
She is. She's elected, but there is the ability to impeach. A problem in Colorado is that the legislature is dominated by Democrats, and they're unlikely to impeach her, even with this security threat. I mean, the fact, again, the state of Colorado, in conjunction with the local district attorney in Mesa County, prosecuted Tina Peters for a similar infraction. It stands to reason that Jenna not only should resign and be removed, but also needs to stand trial.
Wow. Yeah, these are alarming discoveries right before an election, and the fact that so many people are early voting this year. A lot of the votes are already in, and they were coming in as these tabulators had this vulnerability, apparently.
Yep.
So any last words to the viewers? The viewers get frustrated with stories like this because they're like, well, what can we do about it? What would you say to them?
Sure, I'd say a couple things. Be sure to vote. Vote early and vote now, so that we can get your ballot into the system. And remember this: I nor can any candidate like Donald Trump. We can't defend your ballot that you don't cast, right? So cast your ballot, no matter what. It does matter. And then secondarily, reach out to your elected officials and tell them that we demand answers, that we want safe elections. And, we agree, if you're in Colorado, we agree with the Colorado Republican Party. We agree with other elected leaders who are calling for accountability and wanting to investigate what's been happening, and demand that Jenna Griswold resigns. You get the government that you deserve. So let's participate and get active so that we can deserve a government that serves us, not themselves.
All right. Dave Williams, Colorado Republican Party Chair. Great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Go to the links down below. I'm actually going to link the key memo from the Federal Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency on the vulnerabilities of these machines, covered by the national news back in 2022, giving people more than 2 years heads up to fix this. And people didn't fix their machines in various states. I want to know why. I'm also linking ABC7 Colorado, Denver 7 News. You can see what we were discussing in our coverage today, as well as Jenna Griswold's statement. Let me know your thoughts down below. Subscribe, and we will talk to you soon with more updates on whether your vote truly counts. Go vote. Have a good one.